Hi, I'm Ray Jones, famous astronomer, botanist, film director, and anything in between. Now, if you're like me before, you had no idea what hurricanes were or knew very little. But after watching this video, you'll know basically the main gist of it. Anyway, with that out of the way, I should probably stop jibber-jabbering. Let's just get on. Now, by definition, a hurricane is a tropical cyclone that forms over warm seas near the equator. But it's just way more than that, okay? Like, there's many different kinds of categories, or cats that we love. No, not that kind. Sorry, it's just this weird, like, misconception, or, like, whatever clients have in the adjusting community. Like, for some reason they get mixed up with cats, the category, it doesn't make sense. But we actually can use this cat for, say, an analogy for different kinds of, hurricanes, like the different, kinds of categories. But speaking of categories, we're actually now going to be calling categories cats, just so we don't get confused. But anyway, there are 5 different cats for hurricanes. Let's go into them, shall we? This is a Cat 1 hurricane. Basically does little to no damage and just a little bit of coastal flooding. Some examples of Cat 1 hurricanes are Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Allison. Now, this is a Cat 2 hurricane. It leaves roofs, windows, doors damaged, and if you have a mobile home or poorly made sign, don't expect it to be staying there too long since it'll be destroyed, like, just destroyed. I mean, come on. And it even makes trees blow away. I mean, that just shows the force of a Cat 2 hurricane. Some examples of a Cat 2 hurricane are Hurricane Bonnie, Hurricane Gloria, and of course, Hurricane George. Now this is a Category 3 hurricane. Basically, it does way more damage to small residences and bigger, like, utility buildings. Now, if you thought the flooding was bad in, say, a number 1, which no one thought, it gets way worse from here to the point where flooding debris caused major damage to bigger buildings. Now, some hurricanes in this were Hurricane Fran, Hurricane Keith, and maybe this one little one no one knows. It's called like Hurricane Sandy. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a teacher watching this now who, like, Hurricane Sandy was taking place in her hometown. I don't know. I'm not a genie. Like, anyway. The cat, not the symbol. I'm actually more of a West Virginia University type of guy, but that's beside the point, okay? This is a Cat 4 kind of hurricane. Now, things get way more serious, because now there's more curtain wall failures along with roof failures and small residences. Think about that real quick. Small residences, all of them having a bad roof failure. That just shows how bad the Cat 4 is, but it gets worse, but we're going to talk about that later. By the time of this recording, about a year ago, there have been 2 hurricanes that fall under a Cat 4 hurricane. These hurricanes are, of course, the infamous Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. Whoa, that's a lot of damage, okay? This is a Cat 5 hurricane. You know what that means? If you're the last 4, like maybe 4 was bad, 3 was okay. No, this gets even worse, alright? This definitely escalates from that kitten picture. Basically, what this does is, it just... Complete roof failures are the norm for regular residences and industrial buildings. So think about that. Not smaller ones, regular ones. That's just wild. And, alright. Like, if you live in a mobile home, don't expect you're just gonna have sunshine and rainbows. No. You can either be moved away or completely out of town. Now, if you thought the flooding was bad the last few times, of course you thought it was bad. This gets way worse. In fact, for bigger buildings, if you're on the smaller level, the flooding gets atrocious, okay? So if you didn't already fear the last 4 enough, you better pack your bags now and move to Albuquerque so you can get away from these. Now, there are some very recent and, of course, old examples of hurricanes, like Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Hugo, and, of course, Hurricane Ivan. Now, in the beginning I mentioned how hurricanes were formed over warm seas and near the equator. But specifically, how are they formed? Well, of course, it's a simple question with a simple answer, and I'll explain it to you right now. It started out as tropic storms that formed nearly over the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, or more specifically the Philippines and the China Sea. Well, all this moisture from the air, it starts to add up and just twists into the air, forming the hurricanes we know today. I know, very simple answer. Now, there have been hundreds upon hundreds of hurricanes out there. You're probably thinking, well, what could be the worst? Well, I decided to tell you about the 3 worst hurricanes that have ever happened around the world. And I'm going to be talking from 3 to 1, alright, in the ranks. So number 3 goes to the 1926 Miami hurricane. Number 2 goes to the Galveston 1900 hurricane. And then number 1 goes to Hurricane Katrina. More like Hurricane Tortilla. Alright, I understand that's actually an overused joke, and it's pretty outdated. And I also understand that Hurricane Katrina was horrible. Alright, I understand that many people have died. But I just had to do that joke. Now, with all this hurricane talk, you're probably wondering to yourself, well, I mean, how am I going to protect myself? I mean, how am I going to I wish I could stop this hurricane. Well, since you can't stop a hurricane with your bare hands, there are ways you can protect yourself, though. Like, say, installing hurricane insurance. Like, that's pretty big if you want to get your property back that you lost. Only downside is that you have to pay them every month, but hey, when it happens, it happens. Another way, so you can like seal your windows and your doors, so you can potentially, for say a lower level cat, then you can have just like less property damage. And there's way more ways to protect your house, but those are just some main ways to just protect your property in general. Now, before I take off, I'm gonna give you a little fun fact. Do any of you want to know how hurricanes are named? Well, you're probably groaning in your head, but I'm going to explain it to you anyway. Basically, the World Meteorologist Organization gets a group of names, and like a list of names, and if a major hurricane hits, they cross out the name and give it to them. Like, say for instance, when Hurricane Harvey hit, they didn't give it a name until it was big and it was starting to become a threat. And then they named it, of course, Hurricane Harvey, as you all know. But now, if it's a small hurricane, like, it's either not going to be named, or we give it a name, but then, like, if no one knows about it, since it's, say, happened in the middle of the sea, and, like, we didn't record it, we're just going to give that name to a bigger hurricane, and then they'll remember that, but they won't remember that one. I'm going to be heading off now, but with all jokes aside, I'm actually going to be I'm Jackson here, but I'm actually going to be thanking my teacher, Miss Jack, for letting me do a video on this, since I love just being in front of the camera, talking, say, doing little wisecrack jokes or whatever. I just love filming. But I also have to give a special thanks to my mother and father, who actually, like, helped me with a lot of the facts, and, like just with the cat stuff. Like, I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.